Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new God's Way podcast. This is the very first episode, and I am your host, Louise St. Cyr. Louise is my middle name, just to give you a bit about me. Louise is my middle name. St. Cyr is a stage name, or in this case, a social media name, for the purposes of privacy. And just being safe on the web, it's not the most safe place. There's pros and cons. I'm sure you guys are aware of that. And Saint Cyr is essentially a spin off the word, a wordplay of the word sincere. Sincere meaning you're passionate, you're genuine, you're true to whatever cause it is that you're about. And so Saint Cyr is the more spiritual aspect of saying sincere, which essentially is about doing what's good for people and planet. And of course, let's not forget our furry little pets. So with that in mind, I decided that today's first topic is going to be about love thy neighbor. It is from scripture, but in my own words, it's my topic, love thy neighbor. Derived from scripture, and some people have difficulty loving another person for several ridiculous reasons, such as skin color, the elephant in the room, if you're on the other shade of the color wheel, right? Whether status quo, title, you name it, silly reasons why they don't like someone. And I know racism has been a thing that people hate to talk about. It is like taboo. It's something they like to sweep under the rug and think it's going to go away, but it's not. It only gets uglier with time. Those little monsters in your closet doesn't get better by hiding them. They get better by exposing them, by bringing them to the table and talking about them, so that they don't fester and get even more terrible with time. It has something that needs to be spoken about and dealt with, and so we can get over it finally. Hopefully with what I share here today will help to open your eyes if you are having such difficulty loving thy neighbor for whatever reason. Let's dive in. Love thy neighbor. It is, of course, coming from scripture. And that scripture is Matthew 22, verse 29, where it says, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Very important. And it even went on to say it in Mark 12:31 as, Mark chapter 7 verse 6. It also stated to love thy neighbor. I think I could be wrong, but yeah. So let's dive into and elaborate on how one is to love thy neighbor. How can you love thy neighbor without being judgmental, without being hesitant, without any reservation whatsoever? But before we can love thy neighbor, we have to fly. Acronym for first love thyself. Because quite frankly, if you don't have love for yourself, it's going to be impossible for you to love another person. Everything begins with self. And this will be a whole nother topic for some other time, but everything begins with self. So you have to love yourself first in that healthy way. Let's say healthy love. We're not talking about that attached love, that obsessive love, that love where you feel like you can't live without somebody, you'll die if they go. You can't be happy if they're not in your life. That's not healthy love. Healthy love, meaning that you first love yourself, therefore you can pour from that healthy, wholesome place beyond yourself into another person's life. Okay? So you can't give what you don't have. That's just simple mathematics. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. I mean, you can pour from a toxic vessel. You can pour from, unhealthy measures, but it's not good. You're only going to pollute whatever you come in contact with wherever you go. So you got to make sure that you what you're giving is good, because you can only give what you have. And if all you have is toxicity, negativity, hatred, whatever, you can't give anything good. So we want healthy love. We want you to pour into you first and love on you first to be able to know what love is, so that you can pour from that filled place into other people's life in a healthy way. So you got to first love yourself, because again, you can't give what you don't have. And if all that you have is toxic mess, that's all you can give. And we don't want that. Let's make that very clear. We want the good stuff, the healthy stuff, the lovely stuff. So first love yourself, so that you can be able to love another person. And again, with love comes all its wonderful sisters and brothers, okay? Like respect, care, compassion, empathy, understanding. All of those beautiful things stems from love, okay? And hate is the mother and father of all of the ugly brothers and sisters of itself, where you'll find animosity, greed, jealousy, envy, all of the nasties of life stems from hatred. So we want to come from a healthy place of love. Spread love. Fill yourself with love so you can spread love wherever you go. Like confetti. Yay, that's what we want. All right, moving on. We are all citizens of this planet. When we take away all of the ridiculous stereotypes and labels that society have us place on each other, and that society itself has placed on us, we can then get beyond the shenanigans of life and get to the understanding, the greater understanding that we are all citizens of this planet, okay? We are citizens of this planet without borders. We are people, we are human beings, okay? Unless you're alien or otherwise. That's a whole nother story, a whole nother topic for another time. But we are all citizens of this planet, whether you live in so-called Mexico, Asia, Africa, you name it, the US of A, the UK, the United Kingdom. We are all people, citizens of this planet. So let's treat each other that way. And when we have love for ourselves, we can also have respect for one another, and we'll respect another person's space, personal space, whether it's a physical space or there's personal sacred space in and around them. You will be able to respect another person's life and not dare think to violate such a life in any way, shape, and form. As long as you're doing no harm, no problem, you should have a right to live wherever you want to live, because again, we are citizens of this planet. We don't own any of this. God does. God owns this planet. God is the ultimate creator and owner of all these things you see here. Men just gets really besides themselves and think that they own something, or this or that thing belongs to them. But in fact, when your body returns back to dust, you cannot take any of these things with you. It stays here. It goes on, okay, with or without you. So that should be clear sign that you don't own anything here. You're on borrowed time, thus borrowed land, okay? All right, we don't own anything here. This is a universe for all, okay? And we are all citizens of this planet, so let's treat each other with such understanding and thus respect. 3 point is that don't do unto others what you wouldn't want done unto you. Something that you can find in Luke, so that's also scripture in Luke 6:31. And another way you can put that is don't do unto others what you want done unto you and yours. Like, don't do unto someone and their family what you wouldn't want done unto you and yours. Just think about it, Would you want to be disrespected? Would you want to be violated? Would you want someone lying on you, hating on you, being jealous and envious on you, telling dangerous lies on you? stealing from you, whatever, would you want someone to do that to you and yours, you and your family? I'm sure the answer is no if you are a sane person, right? The answer will be no. You wouldn't want someone to do anything to harm you and or your loved ones, okay? So, golden rule. It is a golden rule of life. Don't do unto others what you wouldn't want done unto you. Another way to put it, do unto others what you'd like done unto you and yours. Okay? It's not even in just the Bible. It's not just scripture of the Bible, but even in the Quran, it states the same thing in their own way. Don't do unto others what you wouldn't want done unto you. It is a fundamental principle called respect. Okay? That's why they name it the golden rule. Because if you wouldn't want someone to commit a heinous crime against you, or any crime for that matter, cause any harm to you and yourself and your loved ones for that matter, then therefore don't do it to anyone else. And don't think, and what bewilders me, I find quite ironic, is that people go out here committing these crimes, like hate crimes, right? And then if the person, they decide to, they stepped on the wrong person's toe, you harmed or offended somebody that do not take mess from anybody. And they are a person who isn't religious or spiritual in the sense where they're not going to think to render an eye for an eye. In fact, they will do just that. They will render an eye for an eye. They will stand in self-defense, and they will dish back out to you whatever harm or disrespect you did unto them. And then you want to get mad. But did you forget that you drew first blood? Did you forget that you were the initiator of this whole line of disrespect? It was only dished out back to you in the sense of instant karma. You know what I mean? That person decided to be his own judge and jury and executor on the matter of delivering what you dished out back onto you. So, golden rule of life. Only do unto others what you'd like done unto you. And to flip it, in other words, don't do unto others and their loved ones what you wouldn't want done unto you and your loved ones. It's really simple. It's the principle of the matter. All right? And just to add to the whole thought of loving thy neighbor, remember to check on your neighbors. Check on your neighbor. If you haven't seen your neighbor in a while, especially there's someone who comes by you or walk by your place and they wave their hand and say hello, good morning, and you don't see them for a day or two, get concerned. Go by, knock on your neighbor. Hey neighbor, are you okay? Are you Miss Millie, are you okay? Or whomever. I haven't heard or seen you in a while. Hello? You might not get an answer. Then you'll have to call the authorities. You don't want to break in on your own because you might get charged with breaking and entry. Call the authority and say, hey, I haven't seen my neighbor in a while. I went and knocked on their door and I'm not getting any answer. Can you please come by and check on my neighbor? I'm really concerned if they're okay. That's not like them. That's not usual behavior. And lo and behold, authorities able to enter their home and found neighbor on the floor in the kitchen passed out. You may have gotten there just in time to save your neighbor's life, and perhaps if you didn't care, your neighbor would have passed away. I'm just saying, check on your neighbor. 2, care for your neighbor. Show care for your neighbor. Okay, be compassionate and empathetic and understanding of thy neighbor. See, what your neighbor needs, in whatever way that you can help them. Be of help. Be of service to your neighbor. Extend a lending hand of care beyond just yourself and your loved ones. If your neighbor needs a meal because they're short on food, give your neighbor some food. Okay? Because, there's a thing called hangry. When you are hungry, you become angry, and your neighbor might come and steal your food or get violent with you or aggressive with you just to get a bite to eat. So care about your neighbor so we don't create cannibals or animals called cannibals, right? That eat other people if there were ever to be a famine, right? Think about it. If we share with one another, no one will have to get savage. I would believe that when our needs are met, no one has to become savage because we're caring about one another. We're thinking of each other. We're extending our care and our love to one another. And that is essentially part of loving thy neighbor, is also caring and being of service to thy neighbor in whatever way they need it. If they need a ride, and you can do so because your neighbor doesn't have a car, or maybe the car that recently broke down or whatever, having issues, help your neighbor, give them a ride to wherever they can go. If it's within your availability, do so. Don't hold grudges, malice. Again, this is also scripture. It says, I can't remember exactly where, but in scripture it says that someone asked Jesus, how many times am I to forgive my brother his offenses against me? And Jesus said 99 times 99, something like that. Yeah, that's as much as yours to forgive thy neighbor of any offenses. Talk about it. Bring it to the table. Don't sit there and hold a grudge and animosity and offense in your heart. Talk about it like adults. When you hear things, go to the person and say, hey, I heard this about you. Don't automatically assume it's true and hold bitterness in your heart and grudge and thinking the wrong thing about your neighbor when in fact it may very well not be true. So instead of going by hearsay, go and talk to your neighbor. Say, neighbor, I heard this about you. Is this true? Talk to each other. Communicate. Okay? Very, very important. And would you believe that loving thy neighbor is the second greatest commandment in the Bible? Of all the commandments, it is the second. Which one is the first? The first one is love. It says it in Mark 12:31, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. And it went on in Luke, I can't remember exactly the chapter and verse, went on in Luke 10:27, I think, and said it, and with all thy strength. Right? And why is it why was that the first great commandment, and then the second great commandment is love thy neighbor as thyself? I think it's because we are created in the image and likeness of God, right? Because Jesus said, of these two are the greatest of all the commandments. These two are the greatest of all commandments because in essence, we are created in the image of likeness of God, as is stated in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 and 27. We are created in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, whatever we do to each other, we also do to God. Because we are created in the image and likeness of God. So therefore, if you commit offense against thy neighbor, you're also committing an offense against God. So this is why those two are the greatest of all the commandments. This is not Louise saying this. This is scripture. This is God himself, Jesus, who stated these words. Of these two are the greatest. These two are the greatest of all commandments. So honor them. It is important not only to love God with all thy heart, mind, soul, and strength, but thy neighbor as well as thyself. Because when you love yourself, or whether you hate yourself, and if you love thy neighbor or hate thy neighbor, you're in essence loving and or hating God. So very important that we understand the importance of loving thy neighbor, of neglecting thy neighbor, and harming thy neighbor, so on and so on. Okay? So I'll close out there. I hope this has been enlightening in some way. And until next time, be good to yourself and each other. I'll see y'all. Ciao. Bye. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit the notification bell so that you won't miss a video. I'm going to start off with just one per week and perhaps increase as I go along. So, yeah. If there's a topic that you'd like for me to expound on in the coming future, please leave it in the comment below and I'll do my best to touch on it All right, guys, this has been fun. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.